Hi everyone, I just wanted to take a couple minutes and give you a quick intro into MG201, which is Principles of Management for this semester. I wanted to take the opportunity to just go over the syllabus, just to give you an idea of a little bit about how the class is going to run. It's an aggressive time frame. This is an 8-week class. Which is always feels a little bit longer than a lot of the 6-week classes, even though it's just a couple weeks, but it just feels a little bit more relaxed. We do compress basically in the 8-week time frame what you would get in a standard semester, which normally runs around 15 weeks. So you are running about 2 weeks per week in terms of comparing an online class that we have at the 8-week pace versus an 15-week in class. 15 weeks in class. So just very quickly to go over the syllabus and a little bit about how the class works. We're going to use the book Management: A Practical Introduction by Kanicki. I've taught with it about 3 or 4 times now. It is a fairly good book. We do have the 2018 edition. So there are some changes from the older versions, but I probably won't vary too much. Hopefully there's some newer case studies and things like that that I can bring to light for you folks. It is an online class. I do get asked crazy questions about computers and availability. You have to have access to a computer for you to be able to take an online class. So if you're not using your own, the school has them, public libraries have them, and that kind of thing. If you do have any questions about the technology, about Blackboard, if you have any issues, you should be contacting DEIT, which is your Distance Education IT group at DeSales. They're a great group of guys and gals. They will help you with anything. There's student support. I know that they're excellent with faculty, so I can't imagine them being anything but supportive for students. With regard to the Blackboard itself, you will probably see a revised version from what you may have been using at the end of last year. They did do an upgrade in the middle of July. So there's a couple of changes that you'll see. It really wasn't too radical, but they're there. So just be mindful of that. I do use announcements quite frequently to communicate to the class if I want to have a general blanket statement being said. If it's really got high importance, I might send it also by email so that you get it in at least 2 different channels. Hopefully you'll get one of them, but I do communicate by announcement very much. So if you see an announcement come up, please read it. You might get some valuable information about that. The class itself is, let me bring up the schedule so you can see it. It's going to be covering for the first week, chapters 1 and 2. We have a little bit of a softer start than some of my other classes, and then we start picking up some pace where we have 2 and 3 chapters per week for the rest of the class. Basically, we will be using, I'll have some videos for you to watch. Occasionally, I'll have some discussion forums most weeks where we'll have basically the opportunity for you to interchange with or interact with other students in the class. Basically in the series of questions that are asked, what I'm trying to do is get you to be a little bit more of a critical thinker. So I'm trying to get you to go from, for lack of a better word, straight regurgitation, where I give you information and you spit it back. I'm asking you to do some more analysis, some more thought process with the types of exercise and the type of questions that I'm asking. So just keep that in mind. Be aware of the fact that when I do grade discussion forums, they're usually worth about 5 points for every discussion forum that I give. I usually give about 3 for the original posting and 1 for each of your responses. So you have 3 parts, original and 2 responses to classmates. If you don't provide responses to the classmates, you won't get full points. So I just want to make that clear to everybody so that you know how I go about capturing that part of the grade. That represents a couple of things to me. That replaces the classroom interaction you would have with each other. It serves as a way of me tracking attendance more or less. And it does give you the opportunity to have some participation and discussion with other folks. Generally speaking, what I do is I put a midpoint for when you should have your original posted out there, and then a couple of days after for your responses. What I don't want to have everybody do is wait till the very end, and then people who want to do responses are put into a bit of a holding pattern for those folks that like to get a little bit of a jump on the work that is being done. There'll be some case studies along the way. Basically what I do is find some interesting readings, pose some questions, and then try to have you dialogue back and forth with each other. Some assignments are just sent to me. They're more homework oriented. What I want to have in that is see your original work without you being basically influenced by other members of the classroom. So I do get the opportunity to see various types of work for the value of assessments. It's discussion forums, case studies, quizzes and exams, and then your basic end product for the whole class will be a paper written, and it will be research paper written on a current business problem or challenge that's out there in the marketplace. So to give you an idea of papers that have been written in the past, there's been an awful lot about Volkswagen, an awful lot about Wells Fargo, any type of recalls, any type of baby food tampering, the cost of pharmaceuticals. It goes on and on and on. So in about week 3, I'll be asking you to pick a topic, and I usually don't allow more than maybe 2 or 3 students to do the same topic, and basically come up with a thesis statement about a current challenge in the marketplace today. It can be ethical, it could be something that management would struggle with. So remember the framework of this class is that it is principles of management. So we're looking for that vantage point. What could management have done better? What could management have done to stop the problem? Did management help the problem along? Did they respond correctly? Those types of things are what we're looking for in this particular paper. More details on that will come. So with regard to that, just very quickly to go over the syllabus, the first week is chapters 1 and 2. There'll be some, like I said, lectures, reading, discussion forum. For those of you who had classes with me before, I like to do it in a flip fashion. I want to make sure that you do the reading, do your discussions, get the homework to me, and then usually by the end of the week or so, I do some kind of a wrap up. I don't necessarily do them for every single week and every single topic, but I try to do some kind of a wrap up so that you have a clear understanding of what the targeted concepts are for the class, at least in terms of segments or work. Chapters, the second week will be August 27th till the end of that week. So make sure you read these in order. I give them chapters 5, 6, and 16. I do try to cluster the material in this book by concept. So it's not straight through reading. So don't try to read ahead unless you look at the syllabus and see what chapter you should be reading. I use the weekly units section in Blackboard. And that will have all the information with regard to the content that's being covered and the assignments and exercises that are being presented for your work that week. So you'll find all the information out in weekly units. It's not laid out in the syllabus, it's just way too much to have there, but just think of it as you would come to class and basically look at your assignments from the instructor on a weekly basis, and that's how you're going to get it. My suggestion is that you should be coming to class, and what I say about coming to class is visiting Blackboard, reading your announcements, and making sure that your emails are up to date. I would say no less than 3 times per week. Suggestion would probably be closer to 5. So somewhere between 3 and 5 times a week. That'll keep you up to speed with your assignments. That'll make you'll know when your fellow classmates have posted to Blackboard so that you can start responding. And you can also see any kind of announcements from me, which might be in terms of clarifications and responses to other students' questions. If you have any questions, please, at any time, send me that information. I'm generally very responsive to any kind of emails that I get, requests for information and clarification. Feel free to use the general discussion forum also for that. I do check that and make sure that we are in full communication with each other. So we go right on down to all of the chapters. Like I said, your end product, one of the biggest, I would say, value in terms of the number of points you can get is in this business problem project. So basically, like I said, in about week 3, we're going to look at your declaration of what your problem is and the company. So what we want to have at that point is a statement of you understanding what your problem is. That's my kitty. And then you're going to do an analysis of the situation and recommendations and conclusion. So like I said, this is something that we're going to keep going. The paper itself will be due the last week of class, probably in the middle of the week. And it's a 7 to 9 page paper. It's not a huge research paper. It's just this, like I said, a high level statement. So that'll be clearer, and I'll have that information provided. Generally speaking, I'll probably give 2 tests, maybe a third little quiz along the way. So one will definitely be your midterm and your final. Try to keep up with your work. It's very important to stay current. I do prefer not having students submit late work. There is a late penalty. At a certain point, I had some students very recently that really took advantage of that situation. So I will say that if it's received within a week or so, that's fine. But then afterward, it's probably going to go to 0 points for any selection. In my particular grading system, it's always better to do work, whether it's late or not, than it is not to do work, because the points do kind of stack up. Please realize that some of the points are weighted. That is in the syllabus, so it very clearly points out that your homework, quizzes, and participation and attendance are worth 20% of your grade. The midterm is 10. The case study work, which is a little bit more detailed responses, and those are the things that are probably being sent to me in the email, are worth 20%. Your final's worth 20%, but your business problem project is worth 30%. So I would say that the last 2 or 3 things that you do in terms of the end of this semester are worth just about half of your grade. So just keep that in mind. But you can very easily lose points by having late work, by doing incomplete assignments. So let's just talk a little bit about discussion forum. Discussion forum, the original post should be about 100 words. If you use outside sources, please put citation in there showing that your source is. If you do that, you'll be fine. Responses should be 50 words or more. They can be as well developed as you want them to be. Just remember, we don't want to have acceptable responses or not, I agree, or great idea, or that kind of thing. You can have those kinds of responses to fellow classmates, but that does not count as your response. So you need to go in there and talk to someone else and give a well-developed experience, or you can even challenge each other. There's no harm in saying I don't agree with you whatsoever, and state your position. That's part of good, healthy classroom type of dialogue. Okay, like I said, if you have any questions along the way, let me know. I do start posting things pretty quickly to the grading section of the on Blackboard. If you feel as though a grade is missing and you have work submitted, or whatever the case may be, or you disagree with the grade that I gave to you, feel free to challenge. Go right at it. I have students who have challenged very successfully, and some not so successfully because they were missing parts of assignments. But occasionally I do miss a score, or whatever the case may be, and you know your work. I may be splitting up some of the discussion forums. We're at about 26 students. That's an awful lot for the class to kind of go through. So I might be splitting you up into a couple of different groups so that you can navigate that a little bit better. Anyway, welcome to the class. I look forward to working with you. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks so much.